And we are live. Okay, so for those joining from my YouTube, you probably know who I am. I'm Chris. I am now a dating coach after a long career in banking. And I am half Sri Lankan, half British, living in Poland. I'm probably the most famous half Sri Lankan, half British guy living in Poland. And I'm joined by Sanaz Shiraz, who is also a dating coach and someone that I ran an event in London with just over a week ago. So Sanaz, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sanaz Shiraz, as I introduced. Thank you, Chris. And I am a relationship and dating embodiment coach for strong and independent women, and also a course leader for therapeutic dance and movement. And I guess we also share our passion for couple dancing, and a different dancing is definitely very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Chris is also a very good rumors name in one of the couple dances that they want to call.
Yeah, so I'm a teacher in a dance style called Zouk, or Brazilian Zouk, and Sanaz also danced this when you were living in Germany, I think. But yeah, and we kind of had mutual connections, but we hadn't met before in person, and we just connected through social media and ended up running this event together.
Right.
But yeah, the topic of this discussion was around sexless marriages, because that was, my most popular video, having something like 1,000 subscribers join this channel from it, was my own story of why I stayed in a sexless marriage for 7 years during my 20s. And we actually discovered during our conversations that Sanaz also had a similar experience. So Sanaz, do you want to talk something about that?
Yeah, and I feel immediately like my hands are getting colder. And at the same time, is it excitement, but also the all emotions related to that. Yeah, I saw your video, and I was like, oh God, that topic, which I also experienced with all the spectrum of emotions around it, and I got also all the triggering. I also experienced long-term relationship in my 20s with a man I was really crazily in love with. And he was actually my biggest first love in my life, and experienced this frustration you describe in your video, like very, very similar feeling of, yeah, so like this is why is that part, the sex part, is not working. And unfortunately, it's my story that time also ended similar like yours, that the relationship was ended. And even when was a lot of emotions still in play back then. So that is where we came to the talk about that. And I guess it's amazing that you started to talk about that, because as we know, is a taboo topic. But also realize is sometimes even maybe a bigger taboo for men who have maybe lower desire, or in particular relationship that they don't want sex, because that's maybe a bigger even expectation on men, that they are supposed to be all the time active and wanting.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the way in which, yeah, we judge ourselves, but it's also the way in which we are judged as well. Like, I'm not going to say, like, there's the first thing, like so many, when women are very angry at their ex-boyfriend, it's like, oh, you were crap in bed, your dick was small, or something like this. So it's like the first thing that's attacked is male sexuality, because it's something that, we're expected to be always wanting sex, and we're expected to be always good at it. And I'm sure for the men who find themselves not wanting it, it can be a bit of a psychological mess, really. And from my own experience, like, generally, I haven't had many periods in my life when I haven't wanted sex, at least. But like during COVID, when I had COVID and I lost my sex drive for like 2 weeks, that was scary to me, because it was just like I had something taken out of me that's usually part of me, and that really freaked me out. But I don't know. Did you ever? What did your ex-husband say about it when you talked to him?
Well, that's also something I'm, like what would happen back then is like I was bringing up regularly is probably like a pattern in many similar partnership or relationships with that problem, is like the one who wants more kind of regularly knock on the door and says like, hello, can we talk about that? Can we have it? Like, or complaining or one way or another. And back then, that is actually the only tool seems like the only thing I felt I can do, like talk or like complain or talk about my feeling and asking like why it's not happening. And the other side was just didn't have any answers. And I really believe him. And that's also, it was just bringing him in a real spiral of shame and guilt. And again, like when I, for example, working with my clients as ladies who have like don't want like they have a lower sex desire in their relationship or marriage, the same pattern actually. So I guess that is what is happening when we bring it up. And even when like the best communication, which is many of us haven't ever learned a good communication, but then even when we talk about ourselves and that is how I feel lonely or frustrated, and still the other person is also in the shame and guilt journey.
Yeah.
Both of us actually. And I felt back then, I mean, that's easy to say, okay, it was him. That's the easiest. And after I came in a relationship, I just want to protect myself. And I was just, okay, that box is closed. It's all it was his fault. Very easy way of trying to deal with that, which was the thing is I was also in my guilt and not feeling good enough, not feeling attractive enough. And my shame, that all the same was going on inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, communication would have meant so much to me if I had it. But you kind of had the communication, but it was just you and your ex-husband didn't have the resources to navigate through this shame complex that he had. So, yeah. I mean, and I didn't have the resources. Like, I know, like if maybe with my ex-wife, which was my first ever relationship, my first kiss, I lost my virginity on my wedding night. I had no experience of women before her. And it was, I didn't know how to navigate it. Like my father didn't really teach me anything. Like my parents weren't a good relationship model for me. And communication is great, but it's also not enough. I went to a counselor soon in the marriage to say, because obviously I was trying to bring this up to my ex-wife and she was pushing it all back on me and saying, well, I'm tired and you're not sensitive enough. And I'm like, okay, how can I be more sensitive? And I just like, okay, now I'm hypersensitive to every single possible thing that might upset her and rushing around trying to please her. And I went to a Christian counselor back then, and he basically gave me the line that, oh, if you meet her needs, then eventually your needs will be met as well. But it just doesn't work like that. People are more complex than, you push the right buttons and out comes, and out pops sex.
I love the example you use, because that's also think like sometimes expectation is, where is the button I can't press?
Yeah, I mean, it was because that's what I was going through. I was going through like, okay, she's tired after work. Okay, let's move closer to where she works. Let's make sure like the bedroom is perfectly set up to maximize the amount of sleep. Like I became really good. Now I've actually taken professional massage qualifications, but at the time I got very good at massage because I would just be massaging her back and neck every night and trying to, give her the most relaxed life possible. And I did the housework, and I did all the things that like the internet advice says you should do, but it still didn't do it. It still didn't change anything. And maybe it was a shame complex. Maybe it was just she didn't desire me. Like some commenters have said, oh, maybe she was a lesbian and just wasn't open about it. Yep, maybe. I don't know, but I just never had that honesty.
Okay, so like I I totally hear you. This is like, there is also stuff I tried or didn't try back then. And that's probably like the, where we get into that circle, right? So when we are in the middle, like what we do or what we try to survive or rescue or doing everything. It is like, and there's a lot of topics you just touched, which is amazing actually. It's all like such a depth into that. So
I mean, I know we can't delve into everything, but just pick something and run with it. We'll structure it later.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that. Well, for my experience was the other person also really didn't say anything about what's going on. And it was not because he was not honest. It was because he didn't know. And he really didn't know. I mean, I cannot be. He's like trying not to tell me the truth, or maybe he doesn't find me attractive, or like all of this conversation you had, all of us had, like the same for me. But then also afterwards, I really believe many of that, it might not be very aware for many people. For example, okay, we are not talking about our exes, but some people with homosexual desires might not have, like going through that and like coming out. As I said, like, independent art is really probably nothing to do with that, with our exes. There's nothing about that. And that's the person. First of all, like the other person has no answer. It's too complex. It's too subconscious, or like there's a dynamic. And I love like how you describe, so that, because that is what we do, right? So kind of blaming each other, blaming ourselves. And that is like getting that spiral down, which nobody feels safe. So, and that's exactly the opposite what we want to create, because being open and feeling pleasure, all of that need the feeling of safety. This exact opposite of shame and guilt and being under attack by the self. Like I was self-beating myself a lot back then, and still generally like being self-critical, a big deal. And it's that question, yeah. So how to? I mean, you did many amazing things. I said, like, you followed like seems like you followed a lot of things. I didn't do any of that, Chris. Actually, I was too young. I was just complaining regularly, and not even like being so much in my own film of not being good enough. And I'm probably doing, I was very young, also so like one of my first partners. So I was not at all actually out there to see, can I do maybe something? Maybe is something possible? No, not at all. Like it was all about, oh gosh, what's happening? Why I'm not wanted? And this is like many of us fall into that. I'm like, really appreciate that you tried. But then, yeah, like the resentfulness, like, that was also maybe my fear, because I didn't try, for example, to do, I gave more and more than attention to my look. I even gave up, because I was feeling like, what a point if I make myself attractive and beautiful and still my partner wouldn't want me. Then is a way more the feeling of rejection. Mm-hmm. So I was not even trying that part. And so like, that's like the soup of the feeling we were dealing with. And then yet is an amazing, like, because through my clients, I know how is that also for the other person. It seems like to be some is like saying, no, don't come closer. I don't want to talk about that. Leave me in peace. It's like the people react to shame and guilt differently. Some becoming angry if because of they feel guilty. There's some like, just leave me in peace. Some shut down. The more and the more they feel, they're just the more disconnected, resigned, and frozen.
Yeah, and I think so a couple of things. I think there's an evolution of, like, first of all, I was in the state of everything is my fault, so I must change something in me or what I'm doing in order to fix this problem. And then it was, I don't think I ever went into this is all her fault. I don't think I ever got into that. I mean, maybe there were times during the divorce when I was just like, I'm trying to understand this, because I've got an analytical mind, and I was trying to, like, okay, why is she now behaving like I have just cheated, or Like, why is she trying to destroy me? And one of my friends gave the best piece of advice, and that was just, Chris, don't try to understand madness. So she wasn't behaving in a logical way. But there was hurt. There was. I mean, I think she honestly believed, like, I've been trying so long, and now you've taken all these years from me, and you like, now you're leaving me after I tried for so long. And it's like, what? I was trying for so long, and I was not getting what I wanted, and you had like so much from me, like monetarily, effort wise, energetically, so much. I don't, like, neither of us are psychologists, so we can't diagnose a personality disorder or anything like that. But I think I come back to the point that we really need to just be aware of our needs and boundaries, and to be able to say, regardless of how the other person feels internally about it, there are certain things that we need. And if our partner can't provide that, then we perhaps should not be in that relationship. And we can care a lot about the person, but when it's a straight, like, I need something, not just sex, but if it's something else in the relationship, I need my partner to communicate with me. I need my partner to spend time with me, whatever else it is. If we're not actually demanding that sort of relationship, and I don't mean demanding as in like trying to force someone to do something that they won't, but if it's not coming naturally to them and it's not something they want to work on, then it might be time to get out of that relationship. And we don't have to blame the other person. It could just be like, that's not where they are right now in life to be able to provide this.
I hear you, and I try to manage my triggers right now, because I'm extremely triggered. Maybe like some ladies out there as well. Like, but it is very good that you talk that way. I mean, I connect to your feelings of frustration. I have this need, and it's very strong need. Where am I going with that? And if it's not giving, like, as you said, like the words were like provided or given in a relationship, in a loving relationship, I totally connect to the feeling on that, right? How, as I said, like the same, very similar to how I felt back then. And yes, there is a lot of things in there. It's a lot of things. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I don't know that much about male low desire. So if I'm saying something, I'm more talk maybe from the perspective of women, and I mean like more like, so estrogen dominate bodies. And this is a pandemic, Chris. We don't talk about disorder, personality disorder. The statistic, which are even still not actually covering the real thing, is that the female pleasure or sexuality is like really not being like explored, is not actually out there clear, is not being educated, not to women, not to men. So we have like, it is, I guess, okay, I'll always double check the statistics. Statistics is such a thing. It's like 40% apparently of every woman at one point in their life, they experience the lower sex desire or dysfunction. And that is not like, I'm not saying that in order to finger pointing to women. It is about that our pleasure is way more complex, and it is easy. I mean, there are very easy ways to deal with that, like calling it, too complex, and all of the words exist out there, or like, too just complicated, like if it's something emotional for us not working, many guys can just immediately after a fight say like, okay, should we like jump into the bed? And the lady was like, what? We just had a fight. I mean, now I need like 3 days to
there is the experience of makeup and breakup sex. Like there is this,
that's like after you just coming back from the fight, and that is like, but not like immediately had a fight. Like there's a kind of, the guys can do that, really separating. And I'm not like blaming them for that. It's just really, we might be really different. And then calling each other something like, okay, that's this and this should be not or shouldn't. And as long as we haven't experience the other body from internal, like, for example, it's like saying, okay, I have a need, it needs to be provided by the other person, and that's about sexuality and pleasure. It's a very big deal, has been. I mean, I don't like to go like to the society, the history of it, but that has been actually until recently, right? Like everywhere was in religions, in the communities, like in the tribes, like, okay, women are supposed to provide that, their husbands or partner. And it had so much mess. It made so much mess. It's like, because it's assumed the women pleasure doesn't have its own, identity. It's not the existence things. But it was wonderful. I liked that, and maybe I was triggered, but I liked because you were exactly like talking how many people would talk that way, right? That is like our reaction. We are helpless. Let's say when we feel helpless, to say, okay, what can I do? I mean, we are married, and I only have you. We are in monogamous marriage, and I feel like that is not need that is not met, this very important arrangement. What am I going to do? So like just leaving, as you're suggesting, betraying, or going to prostitutes or something. I totally quite connect with this frustration, and that can't come as anger or just shutting up, or also the behavior. It is clear, and then yet that understanding the issue needs definitely also a women perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, oh, things are dying down, leave her straight away. That's clearly not what I'm saying. It's like, you should be making the effort. You should be trying to connect with your partner emotionally. You should be like all men, I tell you, need to be continually working on yourself to become better. That you need to be an interesting person who is continuing to be an attractive person that someone would want to be with. But if you're doing all that and it's still not working, and you've hopefully able to talk about it, but if you're not able to talk about it, then I think there's an impasse there.
I have like a divided things. I mean, for example, reflecting back of me coming out of that relationship back then, seemed to first, it felt like, oh, okay, yes, look, so I'm just back into my feeling attractive. And the thing is, at least the way I dealt with that particular one, which was like, okay, closed was nothing to do with me, or closed, and I didn't deal really being in peace with what happened in that, made me really like looking back after that particular relationship. I was for years behaving in a way just to prove to myself I'm desirable and attractive. And that was like so many years, which I sabotaged my like the rest of areas of my life about really wanting to have a loving family, being really like intimately connected. So I was not really staying long in relationships, just maybe out of that fear, or maybe older fears. So, and I would not blaming that particular person on that relationship, and that's why I was years afterwards just wanted to get attention and acknowledgement. It was me not really dealing with the whole relationship, even when I was inside, and even after that I have like such a peace that it doesn't rule me, it doesn't control me. The meaning I gave it to that particular thing, which was, oh, I'm not attractive, so I really don't want to need to, different partner just to show me that I'm attractive, and look, I'm like very attractive woman. So back then, I really think there was more reflection from my side was needed, and more completion and peace, so that I could just be doing next times out of choice, not out of like default, like a machine, which is really running from one to another one and just like needing more attention. So I did a lot of damage with that in my own life, until then I started to do some growth and development and reflection and body work, and I'm coming back to the more authentic, back to my center, what do I want and wish, and independent of reaction to someone or something happened, an event in my life. So that's even when someone goes out, it's not done. So it's not like, okay, I cut that particular one, I divorce, and next one will be amazing, which might be amazing in bed, or you feel like, but it's not like there are other aspects of that, you know, like for example, that I felt deeply rejected or ashamed. This is a topic which we all have, especially have it around this topic in bed, but this is, to be honest, also ours. You know, we need to take ownership of that. When I feel ashamed, and you were doing it better, by the way, maybe you were more also in your masculine energy being in action. But for me, it was the feel I'm not good enough, or he's not, like, and done, like not a space possible, not much possibilities in there. So this is a part of, you know, if you catch yourself out there, if you are being in one of those relationships, you know, like the circle, catch yourself if you're in a circle of being a victim. So that is, I know, like you can, yeah, but she or he does that to me. No, it's actually, that is something else going on. You need to take care of that. Or when you're landing in a circle of blaming, you know, like, but he or she should first, or does that. Otherwise, catch yourself. It's nothing to do, like this stuff is not really too happening out there. Is like our patterns.
So it sounds like your relationship with your ex-husband was, in general, you were able to communicate. You could.
Not really. I mean, I was talking, but he was not. I mean, that was not a dialogue. I was talking. He was saying.
So he didn't really take it on board or respond in a deep way. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think in the experience of men, a woman's sexual desire towards them is a kind of a barometer of the health of the relationship, in that if she feels attracted to him and attracted herself, and like they are connecting on a deep level, then it's easier for there to be a sexual connection there in a long-term relationship than if they are like in my case, I was just, I don't think that there was, I don't think it was a healthy relationship, because I was just going into uber simp, you know, mode, do everything she wants. And I don't think I was really cared about. I was more of a means to an end. I remember the time when at a friend's wedding in 2013, she was drunk, and I remember like someone saying, "Oh, but you're really lucky to have Chris. He's good. He's a good-looking guy." And she said, "Not to me, he's not." And she said, "Oh, if someone else came along, I'd wonder if I would go with them instead." So, and then I confronted her about it, because and she was like, "Oh, I was drunk. You can say crazy things when you're drunk." And I was so wanting to believe her that I did. I made myself believe her, even though I had this very clear kind of red flag sign that she didn't have the feelings towards me that I had towards her. So, yeah, I think there needs to be a differentiation between, is there respect in the relationship or not, before getting onto the topic of sex, because without that respect, yes, the sex is not going to be there. And if there is no respect, then I don't think men should stick around in relationships where there isn't that respect, where she thinks he's just who I'm keeping around until I can do better. That's not a place men should stay.
Or she.
Or women, yes.
She's the one until I find a better one, yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you, and I agree to the big part of that. That apparently they say like relationship challenges is one of the biggest reasons why then in the bed is not working, right? But it's a list of the stuff, so which is the reason, and I can totally connect with that, especially for, as like mentioned, for many women. I wouldn't also not generalize to all of them, but this is very like stuff are related to each other, and one of the biggest one. And I talk in behalf of many ladies. It's, yeah, you hear a lot about that is emotional intimacy. So with what we talk about sex is like physical, even it's not physical intimacy. That is also interesting. We don't talk about what is sex, right? So what we are talking about here is a penetration, or what are we like? Because even physical intimacy is, or sexual intimacy has a spectrum, is a variation. But emotional intimacy, like that is what is like a word, right? Sounds like an abstract word, but this is the romance and the touch, the cuddle. This is a very big deal for, especially for women. I would suggest, and that is one thing. And it's like, maybe you heard that many women want first non-sexual touch, and I know for many gents it's difficult because of course they touch the lady and then they are aroused. So what are they supposed to do? And they they want to like bring it further. But that, I love that someone actually said like this big hero touch, like the masculine energy feeling like, okay, I'm safe in the arm of this man, just holding me. And the moment you become sexual is in like making it out of this pose, for example, a sexual desire. Is nothing wrong with that. However, is more like, okay, you want, like it might go in the channel of you're not more in the taking, receiving stuff than like giving. That's like really masculine presence. And I guess you and me are so, both of us is actually using a lot of us feminine masculine polarity things, which I think that's also really a big key for many of challenges. That could be in relationship. I could be also in bed. That the rules are not the, and this is not one or another, really is a dance. It's not like, oh, she's too masculine, he's too feminine or whatever. It's like a dance. Once the one is getting in a position, the other one is getting the other one, and vice versa. The best what we want is a healthy masculine energy and a healthy feminine energy, which is very attractive. But then sometimes, the one who's complaining is for example, wounded feminine energy, and the one like being controlling is a wounded masculine energy. Like all of this spectrum, we also have it.
Yeah, I mean, there's with the like, oh, every time we cuddle, it turns to sex, and then that becomes a complaint. I think it comes from men who are in the place of, well, I haven't had sex in 2, 3, 4 weeks or whatever, and then it's like going without food for a long period of time. As soon as you see something, you're going to be thinking about it. And it's difficult to get to a place where you can build that non-sexual touch without a sexual expectation, which is why I think the communication is really important in this, in that a woman needs to be self-aware enough to know what she needs and then to communicate it. And it's really difficult to deal with someone who doesn't know what they need and doesn't know how to communicate.
And it's sometimes hard when also I know many examples. It's very good that you bring up the topic of communication, because it seems like when you read like in the internet, it's like, yeah, you have a sex problem, the key is communication. My experience was not the key is the communication, is like yes and no, how to communicate, right? Yes, who had learned to communicate really authentically and non-judgmental and non-blame. None of us learn actually in opposite. We usually have a very bad models from our parents' house or other people around us. So in the topic is highly sensitive. We open our mouth, the other person feels all the shame. Oh God, I will blame for my, I'm not performing enough. I'm not beautiful enough. So how is the communication is a very important point. But to be honest, I personally think actually words are not the best way of communication in that particular topic, because the thing is, especially if you living with women, that is your job, gentlemen. You want to bring her out of her head, okay? So if it's like in that particular, we're talking about, of course, about if that is about like she's too stressed, she's too much in her head, she's thinking a lot, you want to bring her out of her head. So once you bring like, if this is something, bring her more in the head, is actually the opposite. You want to like bring her more in body. And this is maybe more the other ways of communication, non-verbally, touch, you say like, or like, I like that some people using that just the noises. It's like, how's that feel? And you just give me a bigger breath or a noise or a sound or a pleasure sounds or a And that is a different way. It's arriving also differently. Also, ladies, you know, many ladies actually can say what they need. Okay. But that somehow arriving the gentleman is like, oh, okay, it means like 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you don't do that, you're out.
Yeah. So I think that needs to be ground on both ways. One, that knowing that men are not so good naturally with sub communication. So if, like, I teach guys to know to understand feminine sub communication, like looking at her body language, the way she's breathing, like the eye contact she's making, etc. If a guy doesn't understand that, then the woman, in order to reach him, needs to speak more of his language, of saying, can I tell you what I really need from you right now, and basically putting it out there as rough as that might feel. But if the guy isn't capable, you know, one or both people need to be reaching over to the other side, and it shouldn't be, well, the man's not reading all these signs, but he doesn't even know that those signs exist. It might not feel like the right form of communication for many women to go to, direct verbal communication, but sometimes it's needed. Sometimes just giving a chance for the guy to realize that there's something he's missing out on, in a way that's not passive aggressive. Once all the pressure's built up, once you've got pissed off of him missing all the signs, etc., then saying something is very useful to very many men.
I feel something, Chris, right now. I kind of feel like I see men and women in the same team, right? And that's a big.
We should be, yes. We're different players, but we're the same team.
But like in the reality, we quite quickly getting like me versus you, like, but you did this, no, what I did this, but why don't you do this? But why don't you do this, right? And like the good question is, what can I do? I guess like that is the crucial one. What can I do?
Yeah.
Right. And when I was like my growth and development areas, and you said body language, and I agree, but everybody. I mean, there are also ladies who don't get like is not that much connected to their bodies and don't hear the body language. But we talk about physical and sexual intimacy. If you do not in present to the body and to the other person, so what, like this is like for that particular topic very crucial. You can learn it. That's the very good news. I know that none of us have learned that. Okay, so it really is understandable that we cannot. I mean, that's very interesting. None of us have learned anything, and everybody expects us to perform perfectly overnight and suddenly. Is too much expected. But the good thing is we have right now such an amazing time. We can learn about that. If you feel like I don't get her body language, we are talking about actually a dance in bed, a feeling, a presence. So this is very important. If you could listen to her body and with movement and make it a dance out of it for her as well. So how can you, being a master, become the hero on that? You can do that. Is not rocket science. There are stuff there, great tools. Just like few searches in internet or in YouTube, and you get an amazing tools, like or practices. Like, let's do that. I'm really curious how her body works, and that is not. I did it in the past with other women. Every woman is different. Or I do whatever I do always, and it worked. I know you want to sometimes a solution, but it's unfortunately if you believe the Lord made these bodies quite complex. That's not like just as easy as like pressing a button and then maybe arose.
Yeah. I don't know what to add to that. I for me, learning to dance was a big part of understanding feminine body language, because you just get used to noticing what's happening in the body more. There are certain cues you're given, like when I was learning and teaching pickup, you pick up on how the girl's posture is to like give an idea, not 100%, because still, like, if she's nervous or something, she can turn away even if she actually likes you. But Yeah, there's a lot available on this topic, and it is an area worth investing in for anyone who is worried about being able to understand these subcommunications. Yes. What else should we? I'm not sure what direction.
I would think that, because that's actually, I think, as practitioner in dance, definitely. And I mean, you and me are also familiar with some Tantra practices. I found like they are very rich in tools and practices. And there's a lot of misconception about Tantra. When someone hears think like sex orgies or whatever, it's just actually a spiritual, very ancient practice. And for be connected to the body, and the side effects actually of that practice is that it's sex life, because you're more connected to your body, then you're getting like more open also for sexual activities. This is a lot out there. And also we know a lot of mindful movement and connection, which we use in our coachings and like embodiment tools and then in workshops. And this is bring what I was talking about, non-verbal communication, which is not immediately is like head to head, opinion. We just want to get actually settled into our bodies. And this is like for ladies especially, if you feel really low desire, or at least in your partnership or like in the marriage you are, my biggest question to you is, how is your relationship generally right now? And you don't discuss it with your husband. It's just for you, okay? You just reflect on that. How is your relationship right now with your own pleasure? And I don't mean masturbation necessarily. I mean, like, are you actually connected still with your sensory pleasures, with your body? Because that is in your access. And even when there is some reason it's not working between you and your husband or your partner, please do not give up on that part of your own pleasure. And this is also the access for improving later also your relationship, because that is a very, very important part of us. The emotions are like a soup. You cannot say, shut up one part and still experiencing the aliveness, the lightness, the joy you can experience when you're connected. And you are capable. There is no body that is not capable of connecting and reconnecting to pleasure. And this doesn't need to be sexual first. You can start really little by touch, by smell, by good, like this spa feeling, the good things you can do for your own body. And that is the thing. Do not go immediately and try, like, let's discuss what can we do together. There might be a lot of steps needed for both sides, both partners, to do by themselves before then they're coming, okay, what can we do together? And this is also another big tip for ladies. There is an amazing research. If you talk to other women about the topic, by the way, you will feel, oh gosh, I'm not the only one, because that is like a pandemic. So many women have a topic with that. First, you feel like, okay, I'm not alone. And by the way, if a gent, the same as that, you need to talk to someone. You cannot figure it out.
Really. Yeah. Just let me jump in there. The thing about me is that I didn't say anything to anyone because I didn't want to destroy the sanctity of, like, the privacy of the marriage. Even saying it to the psychologist I went to, which was, the process that ended up in my divorce, I wasn't able, I was very hesitant to say what the problem actually was. It was, I'm going to ruin my marriage because there's a problem in the marriage that my wife tells me that if I talk about it, then it's just going to make things worse, but I feel like I'm going out of my mind. And it had to be dragged out of me. It wasn't, I wasn't always as open as I am now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but please go ahead.
Yeah, I get. So, and what I want actually for women is more talking to peers, because that has been the women's way for centuries, which is disrupted right now. So, like, the women's circle was a way of just also co-regulation and exchanging the experience. And we have right now a disconnect. So if you talk to other women, and please don't do it in the right way, do not give advice to each other, because they might be actually all in the same, generative trauma we are in, just sharing your own experience. And this is a research that alone that has improved the quality of sex of many women, just talking with their peers and exchanging. And there is another, like the one with the dance. And I know that is also big tip, especially for ladies. I know like many of you have actually a connection to dance and movement, which is amazing and beautiful, or to any other arts. This is another way to get your body, like any expressive arts. This is all in the area of feminine energy. So, but dance is like the one I know best. Do it. Like your goal would be, I want to feel my body again. I like having, for example, pleasure diary, share with other women about the pleasure, independent. Don't make it, I should do that because I have to perform. Just, I want to put that pressure away from you. There are a pleasure part of it. Okay, so that you need to refine it. You have it. You need to refine that part again in you. And then dance has an amazing thing. You can go to the reggaeton, really sexy classes, only women's circle. You can go to exotic dance and just see yourself, that goddess in the mirror, or a pole dance, and it's just enjoy, like, woo, just with yourself or with the women. So just like to get into, we can turn ourselves on. You know that you can. You have done it actually before. It's not like, oh, because of him, like if it's just he doesn't do this and this, I cannot. No, you actually can. And by the way, that's a very important part as well. There's a difference between desire and arousal. The desire is what is happening in the head. That means you see something and, like you imagine a fantasy in your head. And then you kind of coming in a sexual arousal, and not always, but like you get in sexual. And there's another way is that your body get aroused and then your mind follows. And that exists. And it's a very more subtle, a very nice way of like, my body is open and light, and there's a lot more possible for life. And I'm not saying do it, only like because someone like, no, I don't want to do it like under pressure, but just do it for your, first of all, your sense of well-being and emotional well-being, and of course for your relationship.
Shall I give the masculine equivalent of this, which is going to be so different?
Please go ahead. I don't know that much about that word. Yeah, or I can give some, but like just you go ahead.
Yeah, we're more into do stuff, and I think it's very like our connection with our body is more about lift weights, punch bags, go to Muay Thai, build up that masculine energy where you feel like you're a fucking strong warrior, and build that identity and that connection with your masculine energy. And also embrace your independence, that you are everything you need. You can survive no matter what happens with this. You cannot keep a woman unless you're prepared to be able to live without her. If you need her too much and you cling to her like a child clings to a mother, then that's not going to turn her on. So you need to be the king. You need to be the warrior. You need to not be in any way like a little boy who's trying to get her validation. So yeah, and also when guys get out of shape and they're not taking care of themselves, that can put a barrier in the way of desire from women. And in general, it's not even, you don't even have to get that muscular. I would just say be putting in a good amount of effort into staying in shape, and you will respect yourself and probably get more attraction from her at that primal level.
Lovely, thanks. And I guess there's one thing we skipped, and that is the first one, like the check also your physical health. That's one of the first doors maybe you knock, women or men. Just go and check if the physical part of it. You go to doctors and check it, gynecologist, urologist, if that's maybe something also from that part needed to some more attention. And it gotten a recommendation. I saw like someone and a very good doctor, an urologist, talk a lot about sexual dysfunction. And you can follow. Like I think I can give it the name afterwards for the footages. I kind of found like that's solid, because none of us are here doctors or not therapists, So for those areas, you need to also check if everything is all right regarding your body, and that's also very important for itself.
Yeah. I think we're reaching a good place. I haven't had any, I mean, I've seen some comments in the chat, but no questions as such. So yeah, guys, if you have watched this far and you want to leave a question, maybe Sanaz and I can talk another time. Feel free to leave it in the comments and we'll try to pick it up next time. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.